Welcome to Three Seasons of Pod, episode 25. Kyle, I'm going to say something quote unquote controversial real quick.
Okay, sure.
Happy Pride Month.
Hey.
I don't
Controversial my
know.
ass. Happy Pride Month.
Happy fucking Pride Month. I don't know
Hey, if
if
it's
you've seen
controversial, we don't
I
fucking
don't know
care.
if you've seen the fucking annoying shit on like team Twitters when they do the Pride Month
Oh yeah,
post.
for sure. But that's just people, man. That's just trolls.
Yeah, and if you're one of those people, fuck you. I don't care.
Actually, though.
So anyway, episode 25. Welcome back.
Two
We
man
held
band
off.
in it.
Two-man band. Nathan's a little depressed. I don't blame him. You should have seen me after the game. Like, I'm not gonna get into it, but there's a story. There's a story. Kyle knows the story. I'm not gonna get into
Yeah.
it, but there's a story about the game. Not gonna get into it.
I am still glad that I went though. Like
No, no,
regardless of the
it's
fact.
yeah. All three of us went to the game. But you know what? It wasn't just fucking, you know, finance brokers there. Like we were there
No,
too.
agreed, yeah.
And the garden was fucking loud. I don't know if anybody can complain about the garden for that
Mhm.
game. And if you were, you're just fucking.
It was
You're not.
funny, man. Everyone was
You don't
just
got.
waiting to get
No,
crazy
we
hype.
anything, dude. A layup, like a layup. Everybody was going
Like, yo, we
crazy.
need something.
I'm not gonna lie, my section was kind of ass, but I thought the garden as a whole
Yeah, no,
was
as
fucking
well too. My
rocking.
section was pretty good
Yeah,
though.
yeah. But anyway, and we were not in the balcony. Just for reference point,
Yeah.
like we brought out the bank, and we're not exactly rich. Like look how dirty my background is. Anyway, all right. Eastern Conference Finals. Obviously a week removed. Lost in 7 games.
Mhm.
Almost pulled off history. Um, all right, I'm gonna get it into a quick recap of my thoughts on the series. First of all, we never should have been down 3-0.
Mhm.
Like we should never have been down 3-0. I think that just comes with the territory of it, this team, right? At this point, execution's an issue. But what I did like as far as mentality, execution, and all that jazz, we did see it for 11 quarters. Games 4, 5, and like 3 quarters of game 6.
Mhm.
I think we saw what this team is capable of when they put their mind to it. But I do think it ran out of steam, especially with Tatum's injury in Game 7. I think in real time,
Crazy.
it honestly didn't feel that way. I thought he just like how Joe subs people out with
Yeah.
within the 4 minute mark of a quarter. I don't think anybody realized anything was wrong until he didn't come back
Yeah.
until
I mean,
like
maybe watching it, I like hearing broadcasts. They were like
yeah
mentioning it a lot more, maybe. Um,
yeah
but it definitely felt like one of those injuries that they just were on the ground a little bit longer, just to
yeah
make sure. Because I mean,
yeah
I see Celtics players and obviously all NBA players do that like a lot. So I was like, okay,
hmm
like it was scary, but Tatum's like, he's just
he,
making
he
sure it's all
he
right.
shook it off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But I do definitely think the whole halftime break like fucked it up a lot too, because obviously he didn't come out during halftime. But
Mhm.
I'm sure like actually not being on adrenaline that whole entire time made him
Yeah.
like it started to swell up and shit was what the players were saying and all that stuff. So you could
Right.
really see it in the second half, and that's literally where we let the foot off the gas in my opinion. Even though like the shots were never
Mhm.
going down that whole night,
Yeah.
the second half was really like we were like, oh shit, like we're
But
fucked.
but you can kind of tell though, like obviously the team knew Tatum's injury extent, like
Hmm.
obviously like the players and all that. So it almost felt like just looking back at it that they just felt lost without Tatum running the offense.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? And also Brogdon had no fucking business playing in that game.
Hmm.
You remember his like first shot of the game barely hit the rim. It
Yeah,
grazed the rim
it
on the
was
way to
bad.
an air
It was
ball.
bad.
That was basically an air ball. That was
Yeah.
not like you know what I mean. So it was, and then I don't know if you remember this, and I don't know if the people at home could hear it, but there was a collective like when he shot that shot,
Basically, yeah.
like everybody was like, dude, what the fuck? You shouldn't have been in the game. Like, and that's not a knock on Brog. It's like, dude, if you're hurt, you're hurt. Like,
Yeah.
your forearm is like key to your ability to shoot, and if you can't shoot, then
Hmm.
you shouldn't be playing.
Like I
Uh,
I don't know. I get it with Tatum, and in an extent, I kind of get it with Brogdon because it's Game 7 or something like
I
that.
get
But
that too, but
but for Tatum, like I completely understand him playing the game, and like
yeah,
I don't think that sitting him out, like some people were saying, would have been the move.
I don't
Um,
even think that would have won us the game.
yeah, absolutely not, or even like
Yeah,
giving him extra rest time. But
yeah.
I think Brogdon, you definitely could have had like a contributor from someone like faster off the
Mhm.
bench, at least more immediately.
Even like a Pritchard, honestly.
Yeah,
Um, but no, I mean, all that said, I do want to reiterate something. So nobody gets the wrong idea here. I'm not saying we win the game even with a healthy Tatum.
yeah.
I mean, if even if Tatum's healthy, I don't know if those other shots go down.
I mean,
Maybe, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe he goes sicko mode, but
yeah,
you know.
Miami played a really good game,
Mm,
and I was giving a lot of props to them. Caleb Martin, as frustrating as he is, like to watch, he
yeah,
like really balled out that game. Like hella contested fadeaways, obviously hit like timely threes,
that
and
shit was all series.
yeah, it was all serious for sure.
I
But
hate
that
that
game
shit.
specifically, I was like, damn, that was like, and they Miami did a great job of like always killing momentum. Like
Yep.
when I say the Garden was like trying to get into it, every
Hmm.
time we try to get into it, like a timely three or just like a bucket from them and
Yep.
stuff. Obviously, there was, at least in my perspective, and you shared the perspective too, where just like some calls and stuff were also deflating to the crowd
Mm,
and all that stuff, and just for like momentum. But
yep.
Miami themselves, like outside of the refs and what we control from that, like Miami did a
Hmm.
great job of just
Yep.
hitting good shots and timely buckets, in my opinion.
They took
Um,
advantage of everything,
yeah,
basically.
it really was
Yep.
like it honestly could have been like a really great Game 7 in my opinion if Tatum
Yep.
was healthy, like a really back and forth, close ass game because it seemed
Mhm.
like the Celtics were in it, but they just needed to one have that obviously initiator and like
Mhm.
their best player Tatum, but once they just needed that shot to go down too, and even when
Yeah.
that shot wasn't going down, they were still down like 8 to 10 or something like that and
Yeah.
kept cutting
We
it down.
we were hanging around for the most part,
Yeah,
but you hanging around means nothing if your best players can't help you
no,
overcome.
absolutely.
And if anything, the injury, um, Jalen's like disaster of a game,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody hitting shots. Like hanging around means nothing. You're not going to overcome any of that
Yep.
in a game in the most pivotal game of the year. So it just sucks, and you're not going to overcome Tony Brothers' dumbass. So so anyway, I think I honestly still don't believe Miami is the better team. They're
Same.
not the
No,
more
no,
talented
definitely
team.
not.
They're just the better coach team, and they're more disciplined.
Yep.
Like honestly, and you know what? Against an undisciplined team like the Celtics, you're gonna win games like that. I think Chuck said it right. Like, it, if both teams are on and at their best, Miami's never beating Boston,
Yeah.
but Boston can let Miami beat them. Like, it's just
Absolutely.
it hurts to say,
I
man, and
mean,
that's
we
kind of
be
been
playing dumbass basketball all the time, so and
yeah, exactly.
and I think like this year has been even worse than last year because we've talked about like the last year it was predicated on the defense. So even when the offense
Mhm.
was ugly looking, we always had the defense to fall back to.
Yep.
And I don't know, it kind of goes back to what I was saying with Joe going to be a good coach, but I don't know if he was the coach for this year because
Yep.
it felt like this was a great championship window for us. Um,
Mhm.
and that it's because, I mean, the players were saying it too. We were basically like adjusting our like game plan on the fly, and
Yep.
we ended up shifting back to this defensive identity. But obviously that came along with us shooting well too. I would say game
Yep.
six we obviously didn't shoot well, but we still pulled that out. But
Yep.
to win four in a row, you have to like play perfect. Like
Yeah.
and I hope I don't know if they're ever gonna get understand this the way the Celtics go, but or like they play, but they have to like the value of not being down is so like important because
Yep.
there's so many like we didn't have the chance to have like a Tatum injury and a rest game for him to come back the next game like Gabe Vincent or something like that. Um,
Mhm.
in a like 70% effectiveness, like he was
Yep.
literally just on one foot for that game because he had to be. It was fucking
Yep.
Game 7. So if
Yep.
we don't get into that hole, and even like against the Hawks and the Sixers and shit, like they clearly weren't looking ahead, because any extra amount of rest would have been nice. And I think even like Brad
Hmm.
touched upon that with where it was like, oh, like our home court was ass,
It was.
which is true. It
It
has
was.
been for like 2 years for no reason.
Hmm.
But yeah, just understanding that in these series, if you don't like execute, it's just the minuscule things that will like change the outcome of it.
Yep.
And obviously this was a bit bigger where Tatum ended up getting injured, but we didn't have any room for error trying
Yeah.
to come back 3-0.
Yeah. No, I agree. And let's. I know. Okay, look, we'll touch on it real quick. Don't blame home court being bad on the fans, man. We were begging like a layup, a block shot, like we was rocking
Yeah.
like they were on a 10-0 run. And you know what? Maybe I wasn't there for every single game,
Yeah, obviously.
obviously.
So maybe it could have
Like
been.
maybe it could have been, but at the same time, teams still got to play, bro.
Hmm.
And maybe it ties into this team relaxing when they're at home, and
Yeah.
then they're on high alert when they're on the road. Who fucking knows? But home court got to be better, man. Home court got to be the place. Like we used to call the Garden the jungle. We don't even call that shit that no more.
Hmm.
And we were a lottery team when it was called the jungle.
I
So
like.
like,
I mean, I do think it's like mixed for sure. Like,
yeah,
people getting priced out and then
yep,
them not playing good, obviously.
yep,
And I don't know. It kind of just reflects on the crowd, the way that the Celtics are going about it too. Like, if you don't treat your own home crowd as like something special, then
yeah,
your own home crowd isn't gonna be like, okay, this is
yeah.
like they're not gonna like do shit to us.
No, exactly.
Because we genuinely, or at least for me, like I genuinely felt that for Game 7, it was like we were about to do something, and
Yeah,
there was never going to be a scenario where Game 7 wasn't going to be crazy for the crowd
exactly,
because it was
exactly.
just a historic thing,
Hmm.
potentially. So
Yep.
I can't say that that
That's
is going
that's
to
not
be.
what it was all year at
Yeah,
all.
it's like
It was
there's no
not.
way that is relative to what it was even in the
No.
playoffs for them. So
Hmm.
I can say, or I can believe that they said that that it wasn't as great for the other
Hmm.
playoff games and stuff. But I think it's both ways. Like
It does.
the
It
team
is.
needs to treat it like it's a serious thing having home court, but also
Hmm.
like the fans need to be consistent. They need to
Yeah, for
not
sure.
be one priced out, but also like you
Hmm.
know could
No, for sure.
they got to deal with the fact that sometimes the Celtics play stupid.
Yo, for sure, dude. Like, I think at the end too. Obviously in the Miami game 7. I think with the 6 minute mark, I think JB like dribbled it off his leg for like the eighth time. Um,
Hmm.
and
Sounds
then
about right.
um, and then I think somebody got like a layup or a dunk, and then they tried to start "Let's Go Celtics" chants, and then I looked at it, I was like, they don't fucking deserve it.
Yeah.
Why would I chant for them now? I've been doing this all game. I've lost my voice.
No,
Fuck
for
it.
sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm done, bro. Like, but
It
you
was
gotta
rough. It
get
was
that.
rough.
You
Yeah.
you can get that, dude. At that point, like, I'm just pissed.
Hmm.
But anyway, I think that's a good transition. The way we play and hanging our hats on defense. That was one of my lessons
Yep.
of this series. I think defense needs to be a priority, and not just ball movement, but off ball movement. If anybody watched the Denver Nuggets, I believe 2 nights ago now,
Yeah, yeah. Two
like
nights ago.
listen, I think there's a discrepancy between some, not all, where ball movement is just constantly passing the ball, which it is. It's part of it, but you need body movement.
Hmm.
I think I think a problem we've seen all year with the Celtics, I think we've been complaining about this in a handful of episodes as well, is they don't move off the ball
Yeah.
and especially when they get stagnant. Obviously, there are moments and flashes where this team is just like, holy shit, Spurs East, right?
Yeah.
But a majority of the time when this team lacks any real offensive production and you see them shoot quote unquote relatively open threes. I know there's a stat out there, but come on, man, the eye test doesn't match the stats where we really are just jacking up threes half the time. And I
Yeah.
understand that's kind of like a focal point, but I feel like pace is more of a focal point than just making sure you put up a three,
Yeah.
right? Like, so I really prefer movement, and then it doesn't necessarily mean constantly swinging the ball. I want bodies moving. Like, look at Aaron Gordon in the Jokic 2-man game, right? Jokic is up there like, okay, what's going on? And you see the whole entire 4 men of the Nuggets kind of like moving around the whole game, and then all of a sudden, boom, Jokic is so good at finding the open man. Aaron Gordon dunk, Aaron
Yeah.
Gordon mismatch on Max Strus. You know what I mean? Like, I love that shit, and I
Yeah.
think a lesson learned is we do have the personnel for that. And maybe not, obviously not for 48 minutes. You're gonna tire yourself out, but I do think more movement in general
Yeah. No,
would
I
really
think
help.
obviously Jokic and the Nuggets is an anomaly in terms of the person making all the reads is generally like your 7 footer, like
Yeah,
that
that's
like
a little
that's the
crazy.
anomaly,
Yeah.
and with him having such like good vision and playmaking,
Mm,
it's like emphasized to move around and like the amount of times that he hits people like without them knowing or like they just realize as soon as like the ball is in their face type shit
mm.
is insane. But that's just a product of working with Jokic.
No,
But
100%.
I do agree with the off ball movement for sure.
Yeah.
Because we have like decent ball movement, but at the end of the day, it's just moving it around the three.
Yeah. No,
um,
100%.
there's and sometimes we'll spice it up with a driving kick. Like that is our ball movement, and that's what it's predicated on. There
Mhm.
is no like the amount of cutting and movement side to side, um, relative to like even the Nuggets or something like that is like insane. We barely
Mhm.
do that. Um,
Yep.
and yeah, it is basically just passing around the three, and
Yeah.
that may end up getting an open three,
Yep.
but it never really is like exactly the same. Um,
100%.
it is super effective, obviously, when the three is going down. But I feel
Hmm.
like, yeah, being able to add that switch up um, will just take it to another level because
Yeah.
it does end up going a lot back to the Jalen, Jason ISOs and stuff like that. And I think Jason has done a
Hmm.
really good job improving on that. At least like when he's the point forward and all that stuff.
Mm.
Um, I feel like that'll get into whole like another nuanced conversation once we get into like roster and all that kind of
No,
stuff.
100%. 100%.
Um, but we'll touch upon the coaching stuff too. But I do think like filling out the staff and having more time will hopefully do
100%.
that as well. I think a lot of people are giving like shit to Joe, which I mean obviously it's warranted in a way because it's not like he did great,
Hmm.
but he did good for what the situation that he was put under, and
Hmm.
I'm sure that with more staff he'll be able to figure something out because he is trying to be offensive minded, I guess. I know
Hmm.
people were on his ass about like the quotes and stuff too about like not feeling like we should stop shooting threes and stuff like that. Um, but the best thing I've seen from him honestly is that he is willing to adapt. But
Yes.
as long as it takes, um, like even the whole timeout thing took all the way up till the literally the Eastern Conference Finals. He still was able to do that and adapt,
Hmm.
and that is already better than a lot of the coaches that we've seen that got like fired recently.
100%.
Like they
100%.
had never adapted their game plan, and even though it brought them far and maybe even won them a chip, it just wasn't enough because they weren't willing to adapt. So
100%.
I give him that at least.
Hmm. Yeah, I'll touch on the Joe stuff a little bit later when we do our
Yeah,
offseason
yeah,
priorities. But as far as secondary lesson, I'll leave this other lesson actually. I have a bunch of notes.
yeah. Yep.
But I'll leave this other lesson also for offseason priorities. But I did want to get into this one other lesson, and maybe you agree, maybe you don't. You probably do agree. Uh, I don't think Jalen's the 1B we thought he was.
Oh yeah, I mean I agree.
Like, I think that shit flies in the regular season. I think something that maybe not, it's not an epiphany, but more so that it needs to be kind of like more in the forefront is regular season performance doesn't mean shit.
Mm.
At the end of the day, it's great for your accolades, it's great for your contracts, it's great for all that stuff. But come playoff time, that shit changes, bro. And as you noticed, and I'm sure everybody here on who's on Twitter has seen the videos of Jalen going left
Yep.
and the Warriors emphasizing going left. That was definitely a Miami um observation coming from last year's Eastern Conference Final Series.
And
Um
finals.
and final series, obviously. But I mean it started like in the Eastern
Yeah,
Conference
yeah,
last
yeah. I
year.
know.
Like the fact that he's gotten away with this for so long is a little crazy to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that kind of reiterates the issue with just looking at the regular season performance as a whole, right? Because when you get into the playoffs and you actually start playing the competent teams who are in the Eastern Conference Finals, are in the finals, those flaws get highlighted.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
and I feel like people confuse 1A, 1B with points per game.
Mm-hmm.
1A, 1B is not only points per game. There are plenty of bucket getters that aren't ones. Um, But JB's not a 1B, bro. And JB should never. I never want to see unless he fixes that handle somehow. But even then, you got to fix the IQ too.
Yeah.
I never want to see JB run a up top pick and roll where he has to make the decisions ever again. And I never want to see the motion where he's the ball handler ever again. Like I
Yeah,
think we, yeah,
it's rough because even I know everyone's like talking about the handle and going left and shit, but in my
yeah,
opinion, the basketball IQ is even like
it's worse.
that's the most important thing
Yeah,
for him, and that's what
yeah,
will take him and obviously the team to the next level. Like it's one
hmm
thing if he's able to fix driving to the left, but by
hmm
then he's still running into like three defenders at the time, and
exactly.
this time he might get a shot up instead of a turnover, but it's still a
Yep,
bad shot that he's gonna get off.
100%.
And yeah, I get what you're saying. I'm a lot more lenient because of the 3-3 comeback. And I do think that he's not a 1B because that would equate that like Jason Tatum and Jalen
And
Brown
more
are,
equals.
yeah,
Yeah,
even basically on any given night, and I don't think that's true at all.
it's
I think
not.
he's clearly the number two after this,
He's a
and
great number two.
he is a great number two, and I do think that we
Yeah,
can still win with him. But
I agree. I
if you're
agree with
saying one
that.
B as in like equal to Tatum, absolutely not. And
That's what I mean.
yeah, so I agree with that, and I think everyone else has started to realize that too.
Yes.
I can't believe the narratives were crazy, bro. Like once,
I think the Civil War is over.
yeah, like once the defense was highlighted on JB, like this is exactly what we were saying that JT is getting that kind of
Yeah,
coverage,
exactly.
and JB was not able to handle it, and that's no knock on him. Like I love JB
Not.
as a player in this game for the C's, but god damn, man.
Dude, it was fucking rough. Like, and look, all right, I will always reiterate this because I'm not a JB hater. I'm not a JT stan. Like JT happens to be my current
I
favorite
mean, I'm a
player.
JT stan.
At
I'm not a
each,
JB hater.
to each their own. But
No,
like
I'm kidding. I'm not a stan of anyone.
JB's literally the second favorite player of this current era for me, right?
Okay.
But like it's just, dude. Sometimes you just have to accept every player has his flaws, man. Not
Mhm.
every player is perfect, and I think we've been saying this all year. At least I have, where I felt like JB was better suited being put in a position where his only responsibility is just to score the ball.
Yep.
He should never be. I think there was a stat out there. He had like a 30% usage rate as a ball handler. That should never happen.
Yeah.
Clearly, like his weakness is ball handling and IQ decision making, and he's being put in that position. Part of it, sure, is that coaching. Sure, that's part of it. The other part of it is maybe JB wants that
Yeah.
responsibility.
No. I mean, it
You know what I
definitely
mean?
is him. Like, I'm sure he feels like he can do it, and
Oh, 100
I'm not
percent.
gonna lie. Like, I don't doubt that he would be able to pull it off either. He is someone obviously that has upgraded that handle every
Yes.
year. Like, he's been
Yeah.
at like he was way worse before. So
Oh,
so
yeah.
one, I give him credit for
hmm
upgrading those skills, but also like I
Yeah.
don't think that he's like reached his cap. I'm also
Yeah.
not someone who's like, oh, he's gonna come back next season with a left handle, like for sure. I think he'll
Mhm.
improve on it, and that'll be a focal point because
Yep.
of how much he's been exposed on it.
Yep.
But I don't think he's gonna come back a completely different player. I do think he's gonna come back a better player, at least going
Yes.
to that left because that will be like a focal point for him.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know. It's
Mhm.
it's gonna be
I,
really interesting.
I think I'm kind of leaning towards that as well, where I do think JB will improve upon his holes
Yeah.
as far as like just a mechanical issue, obviously like going left and all
Yeah.
that. But I honestly believe in order for this team to get over the proverbial hump, JB has to accept who he is.
No, I agree with that. Like
You know, it's
I think 30% like,
yeah.
being the ball handler is OD. Like that is not what he should
Never.
be doing.
That's
But
what should never happen.
he should be someone that in my opinion is like obviously the second or third like ball handler. And I do think like he'll get to that point with this offseason and focus.
Right.
And JT being that like point forward playmaker like all the time. But the only thing is that'll go into like roster construction, but also like the way the team plays and stuff, which I'm
Right.
sure we'll get into a little bit or like
Yes.
a lot more afterwards.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think I do have faith in him, but
Yeah.
I do hope that he understands that he's
Right.
not going to be like edging for this. I'm the number one on this team, and he
Yes.
shouldn't even be gunning for that on a team elsewhere because that
Agreed.
team's not going anywhere, man. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it may be maybe he can will them to a plane or something like that with a
Mhm.
perfect team around him or something like that. But I don't know the whole like
Yeah.
grass is greener, man. Like,
No, it's definitely more highlighted at this point where like yeah, you could probably be a number one option on a mediocre team,
yeah.
average your 30-ish points, and then potentially make the play in or I don't know, depending on the team, succeed. I don't know. Anyway, that's just not his that's not his thing. Like,
Hmm.
and I hope he accepts his role. It's year 8. At some point, people need to realize their best version of themselves isn't necessarily always a star, and that's hard to come overcome. Everybody grows up thinking it, man. When I
Yep.
was in high school, I was like, "Damn, I'm making the NBA," and the reality check hits you hard, bro. The reality check hits you
Hey,
hard,
if there
and
was any
you
time to
know
be humbled, like this was it,
that
man.
was the time. Yeah,
Like
man.
he like shit his pants in game 7 of
Yep,
a historic comeback, and
yep,
he was the guy. It wasn't even like, oh,
yep,
he had a shit game and Tatum had a shit game. It
yep.
was Tatum did decent on one leg.
We had to rely
Yeah,
on
and
him.
JB
Yep,
was shit. So if there's any
and
time for him to come back and be like, all right, I need to like,
yep,
I'm humbled, like this is
and
the time.
not only is the basketball world talking shit about it, other players are talking shit about
Mm-hmm.
it. Draymond, I believe, Caleb Martin, um, Gabe Vincent. The
Yep.
plan is always to force JB left.
And that's what I was
Yeah.
saying. Like last or in the group chat, like last year, it was the
Hmm.
same thing, but Tatum got all the shit,
Tatum got all the flack. Yeah.
everything for all his turnovers and not showing
Hmm.
up. Even though he had a pretty decent, like they both had bad
Yeah.
final series, in my
Yep.
opinion. It was much closer than people tried to make it out to
Agreed.
be.
I agree.
Um, but for this one, it is literally all on like
Hmm.
JB and how bad he performed in the Eastern Conference Finals, even outside of just that game 7.
Yeah.
So
It was the
for
whole series.
yeah, for him to finally get some kind of like shit, I feel like
He
would
needed that.
he needed
Yeah.
that for sure.
He needed that.
Because JT came back a lot better this season, and obviously he was top 4 in fucking MVP, but
Hmm.
he worked on going left as well and
Yep.
finishing and all that kind of stuff. And I don't doubt that JB will be able to do that too.
Agreed.
He just needed an experience like this, which fucking sucks, obviously. But
Yeah.
they are a young duo, I guess.
They
Young
are.
duo.
They are young. I think
They
people
are young.
are. I also feel like, and I think this also transitions into our offseason priorities, and we can discuss his future and tension. But
Yeah.
to bring up one more point, I do think people forget this core is young. We do have, I believe, JB has 5 Eastern Conference Finals, and JT has 4.
Yes.
But people forget for the first like 2 to 3 years of both their careers, they were role players. They
Hmm.
weren't they weren't the go-to guys. They really only started kind of doing that when Kemba jumped on board. And Kemba kind of deferred to them a little bit more, but Kemba was still the de facto star.
Yeah.
So really speaking, they've only truly been the the cohorts, I guess, so to speak, like the duo for like 3 years.
Yeah.
It hasn't been there for a long time, and in those 3 years, we've had 3 coaches
Hmm.
and a sex scandal. We can talk about Wick Spec later, but we, I think keep that in mind when we talk about these guys because I feel like it's easy to just assume because I even thought that at some point where it's like, damn, they've been together for 6 years. Those 6 years are not equal,
Yeah, I
in
mean,
my opinion.
there's definitely nuance to it,
Yeah.
because of the roster construction and like you're saying, yeah, they were at different roles at different times, and there's
Mhm.
never been like a clear. And even now, I still don't think that it's even the clearest hierarchy,
There
um,
isn't.
and I think that is necessary to have.
Mhm.
Where in shit, maybe this is what happens. Like the clear hierarchy comes, but it hasn't
Mhm.
been that like the hierarchy that we see now until like 2 years ago, basically what you were saying.
Agreed.
And I think that hierarchy needs to be like established for sure because that
Hundred
like is
percent.
important. And I think I don't know who I was watching that. Oh, I was watching like a podcast, but easily
Mhm.
like the best version of the Celtics is when like JT and JB as well are just the focal points and everyone's kind of just filling in because it's much easier because when we were watching the first few games of the Heat, you would see JT only get the ball until like 6 minutes into the fourth quarter
Yes.
because everyone else was trying to get involved and like
Yes.
there was just too many people trying to do stuff, and JT was being passive, but also like
Yep.
he wasn't at a point where he could just turn it on in that last 6 minutes. But
Yep.
once he started to be that like primary ball handler all the time and was like
Yep.
in a rhythm all the time, everyone else was able to just fill that hole. Where
Yeah.
that way is a lot easier for the team rather than um,
Agreed.
JT trying to get it on after. So
Yeah.
determining that hierarchy and being like JT, you're gonna get the ball like all the time. Obviously, it's like a huge workload for him because he's got to be the playmaker, scorer, and defend like a great defender at the same time nowadays.
Yo,
which is
that's a
why
lot to ask,
no, which is
man.
why I'm gonna get into the whole roster construction thing. But goddamn, like that, it's clearly our best version of the team. Like when he's able to
100%.
do all of those things, which is asking for a
Mhm.
lot, it's it's how we succeed so far.
Yep. Yeah, no, 100%. And just to get into Jalen's contract, so
Hmm.
obviously everybody knows at this point. And okay, I want to call myself out because I did say this, but this was, to be fair to me, this was long before any news of what this new CBA would
Yeah.
look like came out. I did want to extend Jalen at the Supermax because I thought he deserved it. He was playing like an All NBA player, which he did. He was. But damn, this new CBA, when the details came out, I was like, maybe not. Maybe not to the full extent, right? Like, okay, so these are the fucking Spark Notes. Please don't get on me on this. I'm not no cap expert or anything, but I
Yeah.
do read. Okay. Here's where are my notes? Damn it. Sorry. Give me 1 second.
No, you good. Yeah. I mean,
Okay, found it.
all right.
I found it. Okay. So here's where the cap hit gets crazy because there are stipulations where uh how much you're over the luxury tax that got updated a little bit where there's a luxury tax, now they're adding a second apron to that luxury tax at a different cap hit. And that second apron is where you do not want to be. Um, and based, just assume that Jalen gets the full supermax, and then JT obviously gets his full supermax with the under the new CBA.
Hmm.
So combined, both those dudes would be making like $130 million, which would be about 60 to 70% of our cap.
Yep.
Which is insane, by the way.
Actually.
But anyway, so just a couple of points to highlight as far as the new CBA is concerned, right? If we're in the second apron, we can just be $1 in on that second apron. We lose the ability to offer any free agents in MLE. We completely lose that.
Hmm.
Um, we lose our ability to trade first round picks 7 years into the future. It's frozen. You can't trade first round picks anymore. And for reference, we wouldn't have been able to pull off the Derek White trade
Hmm.
if that rule was in effect. Um, we actually get locked out of the buyout market. You can't sign any buyout players,
Mm.
which is kind of crazy when you think
Yeah.
about it, because
Yep.
contenders completely rely on the buyout market, if we're being honest. And this part is more so under Wick, but it also makes sense even if Wick wasn't a cheap bastard. But if you're in the second apron, you're paying $7 for every dollar you're over the second apron of the luxury tax. So as you can tell, that adds up relatively quickly. $1 million, you owe 7 million.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and we would literally be like 20 something million over that second apron with a supermax for just one guy.
Yeah.
Now imagine two. I don't even think Wick is worth that much money. So yeah, I don't know, and I think this is just obviously now leading into like predictions and just my personal thoughts on it. Like if you have JB on a supermax and JT on a supermax, you're probably looking at guys like Derek White, Malcolm Brogdon, Marcus Smart, who else? Anybody else that makes more than fucking $15 million, those guys are no longer probably able to be on the roster.
Yeah.
You're gonna look at a lot more cap casualties just based on who Wick is as an owner. He's historically been relatively cheap with our players, and I don't know, man. I don't know if J. I don't even know. No, fuck that. JB is not worth the supermax. Okay, I'm sorry. I love you, JB.
Not in my opinion. Yeah. Not the full supermax.
Not the full supermax. I think he's worth the max.
Yeah.
I think I think what a team can offer him that isn't the Celtics is like the most is 4 years,
I
185,
think it's
86 million,
185, yeah.
somewhere around there.
Which is crazy because
Yeah,
I just it's such a tough situation because you got to sign into it
you
obviously.
ha- you have to
Um,
pay him.
and
Yeah,
even after hearing all that, like I think for the most part, the general consensus, or maybe not the general consensus, but stuff that I was looking into as well and like reading, um, would be that it wouldn't entirely affect us until like year two, or
it
or
would. Yeah,
or the
next
second
year.
year into his contract.
Next year, realistically, is unaffected because
Yeah,
he's still on his current contract.
yeah.
But the
So,
year after that would be the hard part.
which is honestly okay with me because by then we would be able to figure out like
Yeah,
what we want to do with him and
yeah,
like what is the
yeah.
correct move to do with him because
Right.
yeah, I think there's just too many layers and
Mhm.
I don't know, like circumstances that made the Celtics
Mhm.
not perform to the extent that they could have. So
Yep.
I wouldn't be able to put it entirely on JB, and
No, hundred
you
percent.
know his like deficiencies. But
Mhm.
if by the like time that his contract will really affect our cap and the new CBA and all that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
I feel like we'll have an idea of what we should do with his contract, and
Right.
it would be much easier to move off of a contract like that as well. Obviously, like a year or two in.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't even know how like I feel about not giving the whole max because I don't even know if he's gonna accept that. You know what I'm saying? Like if he can
Yeah.
get the super max, but he doesn't get the super max.
I think that's the nuance here, right?
Yeah,
Because
because I'm
like,
like, will he be like tight about that? I'm sure he'll get tight about it.
yeah,
Because even if you were saying like, oh, 200, like
225
low
million.
200, yeah,
Yeah.
low 200 mil, it would still obviously be over that 185 that he's getting, and it's still like at least a 15 mil difference.
Mhm.
But the fact that we're not giving him the full max, I'm like, will he get just be
Would
tight
he
about
be?
that?
Yeah, exactly.
Which I guess is understandable because he's qualified for it,
I.
but it's not like
Yeah.
he for sure doesn't like deserve it either.
Yeah.
Especially after what like he did in the playoffs. And hey, I'm not trying to like, hey, if he gets that back, he gets that back. I'm not. This is from a team aspect. I'm not trying to get
Yeah.
into someone's pockets like that.
No, for sure. We're
I
not
have
talking
no
about it.
problem with him trying to get as much money as possible.
Yeah.
Like that is for sure great, and
No,
I
for
would love
sure.
for that. But in terms of
Listen,
team
man.
construction, what he has proven as a player,
Listen,
I'm
man.
sorry, but I can't, dude.
Listen,
Like,
man. Get your bag. Like, I'm never gonna hate on a player for getting his bag, bro. If JB can get 300 million elsewhere, fine, go for it. He can't technically,
he
but
can't, yeah.
anyway. But look, I understand, bro. I've never been put in that position, but if somebody took $80 million away from me, I'd be a little upset.
Exactly. No,
But
I agree. That's crazy amount.
but at the same time, I feel like Supermax is really only like 4 or 5 guys, maybe 6, serve that Supermax.
Yeah, and everyone who's gotten the
Yeah.
supermax who isn't in that ballpark has literally just like detrimented their team.
Looking at you, Bradley Beal.
Actually, and hey, for Bradley Beal, he was like, "Yo, there was no contenders, and I'm just trying to get my money, and that's
Yeah,
fine."
and I'm not even hating on
Yeah,
him.
but I'm
Like,
also trying to win, man. So like, and we are in a position to win, so that could
yeah,
very much affect the way that we could win,
right.
like to the max.
And we speculate on these players all the time. We've obviously watched Jalen develop into the player he is ever since he was a rookie. He even got booed at draft night. But like, we don't know these we don't know these guys. So how Jalen will respond, like, will dictate, does he want to win or does he want to get paid?
Yeah,
And it can't be both under the new CBA. It just can't. Like, I think those are just the facts.
yeah, it's
I
very
mean,
rough.
because like, you're just not gonna win with 2 guys taking up 100, like 80%, 70% of your cap. Like,
Yeah,
it's just not gonna happen under that new CBA. And
I mean, I was also seeing something too. I could be like talking to my ass, where it's not like everything is finalized in terms of all the
mm,
numbers and uh the caps and like you know how you're saying like second apron and all that stuff. Like nothing has technically been finalized, but this
yeah,
is what the new rules like entail and stuff. But I think like it's still like being sent out and like
yeah.
not revised, but like
I don't
looked
think
upon and all that
I,
stuff.
I think it came more so as, I know what exactly what you're referencing. So The final, I guess, league-wide notice of what the new CBA will entail has not been sent out to teams yet,
Mm-hmm.
but the details that everybody has access to at the moment were already agreed upon by the Players Association,
Mm, okay.
which included Jalen Brown, Malcolm Brogdon, and Grant Williams.
Yeah, yeah.
So shot in the foot, right? JB definitely wants that Supermax, bro. That like, if he
Oh no,
agreed
for
to it,
sure.
that motherfucker saw like, oh shit, I can get 300 million.
No, he definitely was. But which I don't know, man.
I
It's
don't blame him, but it's just damn, bro. I don't know, man. We're really putting a pickle. Starting to think this team is cursed.
mm,
Um,
I believe that. I believe that.
this team is cursed, bro. Boston teams famous for curses. Just I don't know, man. All the circumstances that could go wrong
Yeah.
currently are going wrong.
But at the end of the day, I'm on the boat of extend him, figure it out. And
100%.
if you can not do the full thing, but obviously it's still more than
Hmm.
everyone else, I'm cool. I'm like perfectly fine with that. If we
Same.
gotta give the whole thing, it's gonna be a lot easier to eventually move on.
At least
And
he's young.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I don't want to, speak that into existence because I do love the duo, but
Hmm.
if he has to play up to that contract, and if he and I
Yep.
honestly do not see that happening because the Supermax and the people who deserve it are literally like top 10 players in the game
Yep.
at the moment,
And we
and
literally just talked about him not being a 1B.
exactly, and I don't think that he's touching that top 10 or top 20
Great.
or like whatever the fuck you want to say.
Yeah.
So that'll be very, very rough to give
Hmm.
him a full max. But
Yeah.
only time will tell. And I do trust Brad for the most part for a lot of his moves and
Same.
decisions and stuff. So
Same.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I honestly feel like JB has reached or is pretty close to reaching his ceiling.
yeah, no,
And
definitely for me.
yeah. So I don't know if I don't think JB ever reaches a point where he's a top 10 player, and that would indicate he's not worth that $300 million and
Hmm.
becoming the highest paid player in NBA history.
Crazy to hear that. Crazy to hear,
Crazy.
especially after the fucking,
Very crazy.
especially right after game 7.
Very fucking crazy. Um, oh, I'm hurting, baby. I'm hurting. We're only a week
Yeah.
removed. Okay, so let's talk about Joe. I think we were discussing Joe a little bit earlier.
Yes.
I think I agree with all your points. I do think Joe is a good coach, and he will develop into a great coach
Yes.
because he's adaptable. But he just wasn't the right coach at this time.
Yeah.
I do think just with the atmosphere of the locker room after losing a coach that most of the guys in the locker room really loved,
Fucking loved, man. Holy.
staff, even the fucking staff, like
Actually.
you heard about, losing the staff
Yep.
to
The
Ime.
GM or something.
Yeah, so like you have all that turmoil. I do think experience was necessary. I wouldn't have had a problem with keeping Joe on and as an assistant and then eventually having him take the reins, but
Hmm.
it doesn't matter what job you do. It could be a coach, it could be a fucking stack boxes. If you don't have the experience, you're not gonna jump into a situation that's on fire and be able to handle that. And I think for what he did with what was kind of presented in front of him, getting the job literally a week before the tip off of the season,
Hmm.
like I think he did an admirable job.
For sure.
Uh, I concede in the East. Flaws and all, making it to Game 7 of an Eastern Conference Finals is not anything to like scoff at.
Against the best
Like,
coach too in the league.
what was that?
Against the best coach in
Oh
the league too.
yes, against Spo, the best coach in the league. Like Ime got outcoached by that man. Let's just not get this twisted.
Hmm.
Um, but all that kind of in context, it was a great. I think it was a great season.
Yeah. No,
I,
I
I,
agree.
I think I think the season was a failure because we didn't win a ring. And I want to address one thing really quickly. I don't like these people that peddle this thing about Boston sports. We hang banners. We don't hang Eastern Conference banners. We hang banners. Yeah, fucking dickhead. We know, but like we celebrate championships. But god damn it, like I don't know how you feel about this, Kyle, because we haven't discussed this. But I would
Mm.
rather be in the mix every year than like if we lose 1 or 2 years, just blow everything up.
Yeah.
I
I
just don't
mean,
like that.
I'm very like iffy because for me, I haven't experienced a chip. So,
Mm.
like at least while I was actively watching, I was fucking 8 and
No,
I
I feel
wasn't
you.
really watching the NBA.
I feel you. I feel you.
So the sensation for a chip is very real for me.
No,
But
for sure, for
I
sure.
for me, it's crazy because Um, I definitely feel like I care more just about the way that the team plays and performs, and
Mhm.
that is like being competitive. Because if we were to have won this chip, like it's crazy to think because obviously I would have like loved to win the chip, but I would have
Mhm.
been completely like I would have been not completely but very unsatisfied because I know that this team plays so stupid. Like
Yeah.
the way that we were playing last year was everything that I like wanted from a team. Like
Mhm.
super locked in defensively, like we were always in it, and obviously like
Yep.
we would have lapses and stuff like that, but we ended up, mentally
We
always
were
there.
we were a gritty team.
Yeah, so this team was so like polarizing because I was like, oh, like we could totally win, and I would love to win because anyone would love to win a championship. But
Mhm.
the level of play was so like bad in my opinion that I just didn't like watching. Like, or I didn't really. It wasn't like so. I don't know. It wouldn't have been like the perfect chip in my opinion. It would have just been like a like
Listen,
we
man.
got it because we're just the most talented. And
Listen, man. I've been watching the Celtics for what year is this? I've been watching the Celtics for 22 years now. Right, I'm not that old, but I've been watching the Celtics for 22 years. I've experienced one championship and two finals losses.
Yep.
I don't give a fuck if it's not perfect. That '08 chip was not
No, I
perfect,
agree. I
but,
agree. I agree.
I enjoyed the fuck out of
No, no,
that
I
shit,
agree. That's what I'm saying.
bro.
Like, I'm gonna enjoy the chip for sure,
Yeah.
but I do like. I think at the core, just someone who like really enjoys basketball. I
Mhm.
just want like that like I think that high level like play comes first in my opinion.
You want to feel like we deserved it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Before even like the championship, even though like obviously I want to experience a championship in my fucking lifetime, or like while I'm
Yeah.
watching it. um, but yeah, I think relative to what you're saying, I wouldn't say that that's like at the forefront because I do want to win the championship as the
Mhm.
forefront. But
Yeah.
being competitive, high or like just high level playing basketball,
Mhm.
is definitely second to that, and it's not like a huge gap in between. So
Right.
I would much rather have that than just like blow
Yeah.
it up and just be a shit team or something like that, just because of that
100%.
chip.
I do think there are instances of it like if JT and JB were like 31, 32 years old, I would be all on board with starting over. But
Yeah,
like
for sure.
these dudes are 25, 26, just turned 25,
Hmm.
26. So it's not like we're like dead in the water if we don't trade them.
Yeah, it's very like shit. All this conversation is like mixed too because I'm like I understand the idea of like having a sense of urgency because in the
Hmm.
NBA nothing's guaranteed.
Agreed.
But these guys are really young, and
Yeah.
at least for like JT because that is the guy who was like he looks like he could be the guy to lead us to the championship.
Hmm.
I would like give more like not lenience, but there's definitely time. There's a window for him for sure, like a larger window than people are realizing because
Hmm.
he's only like 25.
Listen,
Um,
the window is him ending his career in Boston. I don't give a fuck. Like me.
no, for sure, but in terms of like him leading us to a championship, that window is very large. But at the
Yeah.
same
Agreed.
time, we do need to have some sense of urgency. Like I
Hmm.
don't think that we should just sit on this JB contract or even like this Joe coaching for
Hmm.
like 2 3 years if nothing comes out of it. I think
Right.
like Joe was gonna be like to get back to the whole like Joe conversation. I think Joe's gonna be
Hmm.
a great coach, but he wasn't the coach to win championship this year, like I was saying.
Agreed.
But he was learning a lot, adapting a lot, which was really nice to see. And he had no staff, and I know
Yep.
everyone's
Yep.
pointing that out, but that's like such an underrated thing because almost on every like head coach or not head coach, like championship
Ah,
staff, there's
yeah.
always multiple head coaches that end up leaving to join other either
Yep.
staffs or become head coaches on their own.
Yep.
So you saw that obviously with the Warriors chip last year, and then Ime's staff was obviously good because they had like Joe,
Hmm.
Damon Stoudemire, Joe Hardy, all
Will
the
Hardy.
like all
Yep.
of them, and it's crazy because they are or they're all head coaches
Oh.
and all that stuff in their own respective places now.
Yep.
So Joe, not having that staff for a majority of the season, I give him a lot of props for even getting to where
Yep.
he was and
Yep.
making the adjustments in the
Yeah.
playoffs as late as they were. He was still able to make useful adjustments
Hmm.
rather than like no adjustments at all.
Yep.
So I actually do have faith in him, and I think that he'll
Hmm.
be able to come like a great coach and get something out of this team.
Yep.
And I don't think that um, I'm sure Tatum and stuff believes in that too because if they really didn't fuck with him, they would have said something
Yeah.
after this not collapse, but like the game 7 loss.
It wouldn't have been as supportive of him.
Exactly. So
Right. Yeah, no,
I
for
think it's
sure.
possible.
I do think continuity is so important in the NBA,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people aren't realizing this. I feel like it's such a reactionary league where if you don't succeed in that moment, a lot of people are like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna highlight his flaws, and we need something different." Not realizing like something different is a Doc Rivers. Um, given the current market, he's like him or Bud. And if you talk to Bucks fans, Bud was terrible.
Yeah, no, I'm fair.
Everybody's gonna have their flaws that are highlighted, and we just don't see it because we're only seeing ours.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I do think to highlight the assistant thing, like, dude, Golden State had Mike Brown and Kenny Atkinson, who's
Yes.
consistently on the radar for head coaching jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think Doc had Tibbs around him and Ty Lue and Sam Cassell. Like, a lot of experience is around even the most experienced head coaches.
Yes.
And Joe did not have that. We lost our most experienced assistant coach halfway through the year.
Yep.
Like, so it's just and we lost one right in the very beginning to the Utah.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think continuity is important. I do agree though his leash should not be that long
Nope. Yeah.
because there should be excuse me. I think there should be some sort of sense of urgency in terms of like, you know what, we did run it back. This was technically a run it back, and even if we did add Brogdon, this is essentially the same exact roster, same build up, just with a different coach. I do think Joe deserves at least another year, maybe even two
Yeah.
potentially.
No, same.
But that short leash definitely is there because the time is so valuable, man. Like JB would be entering his prime next year. JT is knocking on the doorstep of his prime, which
Yes.
it depends on what the way you look at it. A lot of people look at it as your age 26, 27 season. It could
Mm.
be your 25 season, depending on who it is. LeBron James was in his prime for his entire career. So do not
Actually.
use that as
Actually.
an example. But I do think, yeah, continuity is important. Give Joe the benefit of the doubt. Give him
Yeah.
an experienced
And
staff.
even, I mean, just real quick on the prime thing, like, yo, even
Yeah.
I feel like the prime is lasting even longer, but there is like not like a second prime, but that post 30s be hitting different, man. Like
Yo.
the especially with the way that the health and recovery of the players are nowadays. It's
Yep.
just like that second prime when the game like really slows down for you. It's
Yeah.
like it's hitting different, and we see that right now too, where a lot of like the Currys, even like Jimmy Butler and all that kind of stuff, they're like a little bit past 30, um,
Hmm.
but they're just super effective. And like obviously like Kawhi without his knee problems and all that kind of stuff,
Yep.
KD and stuff, like they just
Hmm.
you would feel like I'm used to like this time being like, oh, they're like slowly falling off and stuff, but
Yep.
it still feels like they're highly effective in their games. And
Hmm.
obviously the next generation is going to be coming up soon, but hey, with Tatum, if he's a lifer, which I want him to be, even that post 30s, man, that that
Yeah.
prime gonna hit different.
For sure. But yeah, and honestly, that too, just to add on to that a little bit, a lot of that too is coaching staffs able to adapt, whether it be analytics, whether it just be
Hmm.
knowing how to put these people in the right position. You know what? It's working. Shit, Al Horford's 38.
Yeah,
Um, and he looked other than the last couple games where I just felt like he just got old, but he's looked good for an age 37 season big man
yeah.
that never shot threes before. So
Hmm.
yeah, give Joe a shot, guys. And Brad obviously believes in him.
Yeah, no, I have
Um,
faith. I have faith. I don't think there's anyone else that would
no,
instantly change his team, and continuity, like we were saying, is super important
yeah,
in this. So,
Red Auerbach is not walking through that door, people. he's just he's just not, bro. Okay, so roster construction. So I'm gonna bring back one of the lessons I had because I felt like it pertained to roster construction.
yep.
So obviously we know about this team's flaws. A lot of mental lapses, a lot of execution issues. Um, but man, speaking of Al, and this is why it's a good segue. Al's
Ah,
getting Al's getting old, bro.
yes,
I
yes.
think we saw that. You know what? Credit to him for his defense on Embiid. Credit to him for spurts of great defense against Bam. But that man lost his legs in the
Hmm.
playoffs, and that's a huge explanation as to why he could not hit a three, save for
Yeah, I
like
mean that's
one
no knock
game.
on him, bro. He's fucking
It's not a
playing
knock on
great.
him at
Yeah.
all. It's not. But it did hurt the team.
No,
Because
absolutely.
this team is so reliant on making shots. And this is not me saying trade Al over anything, but this is me telling us that you know what, that double big that was so elite last year is just not the same double big that we know and love anymore,
Yep. Which is fine.
unfortunately. And I do think a huge point of emphasis is the Al replacement is needed now, and not Al replacement as in get Al off the roster, but Al replacement as in continuity as a guy that can take over that role, so to
Yeah.
speak.
I'm kind of iffy because I with Derek White being my goat, like I love like I
I
don't
love
think
Derek. Yeah.
yeah, so I think him slotting in as that one or like the two obviously,
Hmm.
um, and then JT playing that four. I honestly think that we just need a consistent big, and
Hmm.
when I think of our replacement, I just think of like a versatile big,
Hmm.
but I'm I think we just need a traditional like rim running big that can defend the paint like to the max. And obviously we think that is like
Rob.
that's Rob or that is
Yep.
supposed to be Rob. But
Yep.
with at this point like I don't know what we can expect from him like in his body. Um
Yep.
and whether that's someone who is starter level or like role player who can like always
Hmm.
routinely like slot in that starter position in case. Um
Right.
that is something that I would look for the most because yeah, I do think the double big lineups there's not going to be someone that we unless like we pull off a trade for like a four that is very like versatile as well. I
Hmm.
just don't see that happening
Yeah, I
anymore.
agree. I
And
agree.
I think that just the single big because this was going into like my whole roster construction thing where it was like
Hmm.
I think and they touched upon it a little bit too, where they were saying like, oh, like we missed Rob for like 20 games into the season, and it was just hard to find continuity within the roster and game plans and all that kind of stuff. I think
Hmm.
yeah, just having a consistent, reliant big
Yeah.
for the whole season that we can just do regular things and like get
Yeah.
um not like plays for, but we just barely have any big action, I guess.
Yeah.
Like even with Al, he's kind of just like spacing the floor. He's not really like
Hmm.
pick and pop in, pick and roll in, stuff like that. And then
Yep.
obviously we saw the glimpses of Rob being a vertical threat off
Yep.
of pick and rolls. But dude,
Hmm.
teams be spamming that pick and roll, and we barely be doing that shit.
Yep.
Especially the way that like we could with
Yep.
yeah, like the
With both
spacing
of
that
them. It
yeah,
could be
with
a pick and pop, pick and roll, whatever it may be.
exactly. So I think just being able to do that in any aspect consistently would add just another layer. And like I think that would break up the flow a lot of like our oh we're standing around and doing an ISO. We can just
Agreed.
do a fucking easy ass high pick and roll with our starting center that we've been playing with 82 games of the season, not like 20
Literally, bro.
games towards the end of the
Literally.
season and shit. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like
Yeah.
I think that is probably the biggest thing and I don't know whether that is shipping one of them off because I love like
Mhm.
everyone on this team and that makes
No,
it
for
rough
sure.
to think about.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't know if there's a world that we can get, like we keep Al, we keep Rob, and we get
Hmm.
a starting caliber center,
Yeah.
without shedding off of someone. And
Agreed.
that could be a Grant thing. I
Malcolm
don't
Brogdon.
know. Or like, yeah, a Brogdon thing too. And
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, if we're going into even more roster
I
construction
know.
shit,
I know.
dude,
But
I don't
like,
even know about the,
no,
the point guard stuff.
I agree though. Like, I think coming into the year, our thoughts on the Al replacement was a big that can facilitate our offense and be versatile, hit threes, play defense. But man, like I don't even think that. I just want like you were saying a consistently available big that
Hmm.
can play his role.
Yes.
Right? Is it started? I obviously ideally starting caliber, but I don't know. Like fit's gonna be important. I know a lot of people were begging for Jakob.
Yeah, the more that
That
I think back
you
on
know
it, I'm like, damn, like Pirtle would have been
that would have been
insanely
actually
perfect.
pretty lit just because of the inside out possibilities with him.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a shooter, but like the inside out possibilities would have been like very very nice to have
Yeah, even
in
on
that
our team,
Miami
man,
series.
like
Yeah,
it would have been amazing to have
I
someone like
mean,
that. And I think that is someone that we or not someone, but like some like the mold of player that we should like
mhm,
absolutely look for.
yeah, for sure. And just someone that's readily available that can slot in and provide productive minutes.
Yeah,
Maybe but I do think that needs to be looked into. I don't have a list of names available. I
same.
think
I
that
literally
would
said
be
like someone available
yeah,
or like in the caliber of like a Nas Reed,
yeah,
where
exactly.
he is like a role player, but he could totally be a starter. and I
Agreed.
don't think that he's bad either way. Like if he was on the
Yeah.
bench and was up whenever someone was injured, he'd be perfectly
Hmm.
fine. But if he
Agreed.
was like our starting center, it would be
Agreed.
like a bit of a gamble. But I think he
Yeah.
could be great as well.
Agreed. I do think that will shape up more after the draft
Yep.
as we head into free agency and we start seeing a lot more of how the market itself shapes up. And obviously, when the finals is over and the dust is all settled there. But I do think a big is a point of emphasis now,
Yeah.
and I don't mean I love Luke, but can't be Luke Burnett.
No, that is not
Uh,
it. Maybe in the
it's
regular
not.
season, but now we
Yeah,
saw
it's
what the fuck the playoffs was doing, and that
literally.
is not what we need. And
Yeah.
I also threw in like a forward as well. But I mean that's kind of basically what we were saying
We.
during the trade
Yeah.
deadline and stuff like that. Just another forward to give minutes off of our other wings, as in
Hmm.
like JT and JB.
Yep.
But maybe even like I just want someone that we could low key kind of like mold into like.
Yeah.
There's so many like, in my opinion, that 6'9" or like 6'8" to like 6'10" lanky like athletic
Yeah.
player that are in the league or like starting to come into the league that
Yep.
I feel like we could just have and mold into
Yeah.
that, in my opinion, Al Horford replacement or whatever.
Mhm.
Because yeah, I think even like I've been saying, outside of the playmaking that Al provides, I think his biggest strength is just his defensive versatility, and we just
100%.
don't have that like Swiss Army knife like wing defender. We have those in the guards and overall like paint in like defender overall. But
Hmm.
I don't think outside of like JT being that, which obviously we don't want him to do that all the
No
time.
way.
Like we
Yeah.
don't have the Jaden McDaniels of the world or the Vandos of the world and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Where they could slot in on that perimeter and guard those wings, but still be like,
Hey,
I,
we could have.
yeah, I would say Vando is a little bit like less
He's
available offensively, so that would have not been
100%.
the greatest for us. But
Yeah.
overall, like there are people that exist like that in the NBA and are
Mm.
coming into the NBA from the draft and all that kind of stuff.
Agreed.
So those were like my two things, and I don't know how I feel about this guard core, man. Like, I there's a world where we just stick it out and we deal with it, and it like because it is
Um.
a good guard core. It's a great guard core.
Yeah.
But is it the guard core that we need?
Listen. Listen. Okay. One thing, I do think a backup wing, we have that. I actually liked what I saw from Sam,
Yeah,
and
no,
I'm kind of
I agree with
I'm
that.
kind of questioning why he didn't get an opportunity in that Heat series. He played 3 minutes. Let's not count
Yeah,
that. But I think Sam needs to be allowed to show us what he's got because we either commit to him or we don't, man.
yeah.
There's no point in signing him to a 3-year deal if we don't
I'm
see
thinking
what he
more of
has
a
to
four,
offer.
but I get what you're saying with him. Like I think
Yeah, no,
he's
no. I
perfectly
meant like as
suited
the
for it.
backup wing,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
not the Al replacement, but like the guys that will alleviate the twos and threes for a
yeah,
little
yeah.
bit. And as far as the guard rotation, I honestly think Brad is selling high on Brogdon.
I could see
Um,
it. I could see it.
because think about I think about it this way, and I know a lot of other people have reiterated this point. 31 years old, he's routinely injured every year. We got a healthy Brogdon season
Hmm.
relative to his actual health. He played 70 games, won six man of the year. Not getting any younger. I think he's obviously at his ceiling,
Yep.
or if not past it. Um, where he's going to be seeing a downward trend. And I honestly think, just from watching him all year, he's been great as far as giving us an offensive spark and breaking through zones that a lot of teams tend to throw at the Celtics. But man, he's not the second unit offensive runner that I thought he would be.
Yeah, no, he's literally
Um,
fucking second to JB and being tunnel visioned.
Yo, exactly. That's like I remember there was a stretch where he was struggling in December, and we were just talking about it being him figuring out his role in the offense and all that.
Hmm.
Man, that really went away. He had a handful of games where he got like his 7, 8 assists or whatever, but I felt like that came from just being a black hole on offense,
Yeah,
and I don't know if that cannot be what we get out of our second unit, bro. And we talked about the playmaking being an issue, right? Like we
yeah,
don't really have that many of those. I think it goes JT, Marcus, and then throw in Derek in there. But we thought Brogdon would be that, and honestly, he's making 20 something million. I think if anybody, I know Brad enough where he seems like the kind of guy that would think ahead,
Yeah.
whether or not the CBA will affect us next year or not. And I feel like selling high on Brogdon is definitely on the radar.
Yeah, for like lesser contracts and stuff like that,
Yep.
or like, but
I
obviously
don't.
like effective
Yeah.
players.
Agreed. That's
Um,
what I think it is. It won't be like equal value of any means. I don't think. I don't think you're really going to get equal value from trades in the current market, but
mhm.
I do think he's going to move on from Brogdon.
I can see it. I mean, I have no problem with that. I think in
Yep.
my pecking order, that would be the first guard to go. Which, you
100%.
know, I'm glad he did what he did, and he was great for us. But
Yep.
you got to
Thanks
move
for the
on.
thanks for the 6 man of the year parlay.
Yep. But Marcus Smart is on my fucking list too, man.
Ooh.
Like I
Ooh.
love everything that he did
Mm.
towards the end of the 3-0 comeback.
Hmm.
But my God, man, the the ups and downs
The
are
Marcus
just
Smart experience.
insane. Yeah, exactly. And when I think about like JT's load, right?
Hmm.
Being having to be the playmaker, the scorer, and the defender
Yeah.
that he is on the team. We just need someone who's a consistent playmaker for us, man. And that
Hmm.
we've seen that stretch from Marcus Smart too, where it was
Yeah.
like this man was double digit assists, no
Yep.
turnovers for like 3 weeks or some shit like that. And it was like,
Hmm.
yo, this is exactly what we need. And then obviously in this playoffs, same thing, up and down. Eastern Conference Finals, we don't know what the fuck he
Hmm.
was doing the first 3 games. Then he
Yep.
started to turn up a little bit and like hit timely shots and all
He
that
was
stuff.
literally our second best player from
Yeah,
games like four, and five.
exactly. So he did a really good job of that, which I give him all the credit for. But
Hmm.
same thing, Game 7, bro. Like, what the fuck were some of those shots, man? Like
I wouldn't even say the shots. I think there were specifically some passes that I
that
didn't
too.
like.
Like,
Just
bro, he tried to
forcing it
give
into
a
the paint.
lob to someone, and it was like not even
Yeah.
existent. And then on the fast break three, or the fast break pulls it out, takes a three. I'm like, dude, and
Mm.
like I love Marcus Smart, man.
But
But
here's the thing.
there's a time there's see this is there in my opinion, like we were saying with the whole like core and
Mhm.
the timeline and how long these guys have actually been the guys and stuff like that.
Yep.
This core, in terms of like those three, have been a core for however long that they have been,
Hmm.
and I don't know, man. Like the result has always been the same in terms of we never have execution, and it
Yep.
always is like so up and down in play and stuff like that. And if
For sure.
the like everyone regards Marcus Smart as like the heart and soul of the Celtics and shit, right? But if the
Yep.
heart and soul of the Celtics is not really being effective in terms of being the heart and soul of the team, then come the fuck on,
I
man.
think okay. So my view on this is like I know what you're saying, and to an extent I agree, but like I know Marcus is capable, and like you were saying, there are flashes of it where like holy shit, this is exactly what we need.
Hmm.
And I do think we need somebody secondary to run the offense. And I know during Game 7, ideally that would have been Marcus, but I think everybody just had a bad game.
No, I
Uh,
heard. I
but
heard.
but I have personally been a proponent of this, not moving Marcus, but like putting him maybe not in that position to be the primary playmaker.
Yeah, yeah,
I know he's capable. Like he has games where he can be capable, and I think in spurts that's fine if he still, you know what I mean.
yeah, yeah,
But I honestly thought the best version of Marcus is literally a 3 and D guy,
yeah. Which
right?
I agree with. Like, I think,
Yeah.
and I'm not seeing that he's not a great, like he's not going to be a great player or whatever like that, or like a good
Yeah.
player. But I just think that
Mhm.
he's our only piece that could be moved for something like that. And
Right.
I'm not even someone on the boat of like, oh my god, we need to trade for like a true point guard and blah blah blah. Like, I think
Right.
that's whatever. But I do
Hmm.
think what he provides could easily
Yeah.
be done by our other guards. And
Mm.
like I said, Malcolm Brogdon is first on that list for me in terms of being moved. So I'm not
Right.
even saying that Smart should be moved right now.
Hmm.
But seeing what I saw from Derek White and me being fucking
Yeah.
advocating for Derek White all this time, I'm like, dude, he could 100% like slot into that
Right.
role, and there would be a clear hierarchy of like playmaking, I guess.
Hmm.
Where it'd be like, yes, JT is the primary playmaker, and then obviously you have Derek White. But I do just have a lot more faith, in my opinion. Like, this could just be biased, but that Derek
Yeah.
White getting propped up into a bigger role would elevate his game even more, because
Yeah.
we saw that even in glimpses of like Game 7, where it was like, oh, when you needed him to step up, like he was literally the only one fucking doing anything on the
I think
team.
I think we kind of saw that all year though
That
with
too, yeah.
Derek. Where I honestly felt like, even including the postseason, Derek has been our third best player
Yeah,
all
no,
year.
easily, easily.
And you know what? Maybe that's the difference here. Maybe Derek slots into that role we thought Marcus would be, and Marcus slots into the role we thought Derek would be. And
Maybe.
I think it works out because like I don't see a problem with the current starting lineup. I
I
just
don't
think
either. I don't either.
I think it's just the hierarchy of it. Like I know Nate is gonna be a little upset hearing about Marcus Smart potentially getting traded, but you know what? Like at this point, the only real guy that is truly untouchable on this
Oh,
team,
it's
if we're
fucking
being
Tatum, bro.
completely honest, is Tatum. There's really only one person, and I love everybody on this team.
Like, I'm not gonna
Oh,
lie,
you
dude.
know, yeah.
It might be Tatum and D White for me, man. Like, obviously D White
Mm,
is extremely like he'd have a lot of value in the market. But
mm,
I think just based off his contract and what he actually provides, he's just
yeah,
so fucking he's so like up there for me in terms of
yeah. He's amazing. No,
untouchables.
Derek has literally been amazing.
No,
From
yeah.
the jump,
So
honestly.
I don't know, man. Like, it would be interesting to see them like do a switch like that, where it is like maybe D White is
Mm,
does end up doing that more. But I just think what you could get out from, and like I said, he is second on
who-
my list. Brogdon is first because
who-
I think
like,
Brogdon could do the same, where like you could get what we're missing for, which in my opinion I think is that like Al replacement or whatever like that.
mm,
Just like a real defensive anchor, because I think
yeah,
we're just we don't have that defensive anchor at the
a
moment.
reliable one.
Yeah, a reliable one. So
Yeah.
I think Brogdon would be able to get something like that, or a player that
Mm,
we could mold into that, and I think Marcus Smart would be able to do that as well. So
mm.
either one of those guys being like shipped off, I guess, is what like I could see happening.
I don't know, man. I'm hard pressed to move. Because like I feel like that something like that, logic reasons aside, like that would shake up the entire core.
It would, but maybe that's what we need.
Maybe I don't know.
Like at that point, like that's where I'm saying
Yeah.
it's I'm cool with. I'm cool either way. If we don't, like, I'm absolutely fine
Mhm.
running it back and trying it out. But
Right.
I don't know how many years it has to take
Think-
and how many like of the same thing has to happen for us to realize that maybe this core isn't like the core. You know what I'm saying? Like, and
Right.
there needs to be a shakeup because I
I
think the
think it comes
only
down to no. It comes down to this, right? Like I do think at the very least it's the same timeline as Joe,
yeah
right? Where like in the next 2 years, it'll kind of like come to fruition, right? Because I think at the moment Marcus is what 28. When he hits his age 30 season, that's when the conversation really needs to start.
I'm
I
not gonna
feel.
lie. In my opinion, is 1 year. 1 year for
You think,
Smart.
you think next
I
year?
think it's different for Joe because
Hmm.
he
It's his
obviously
first year.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's like a different nuance to it. But I think that timeline is the JTJB like core. I think the
Hmm.
core of which is literally just the third player being Marcus Smart, and
Hmm.
even throw in Rob. Like those four, like
Yeah.
that core of four people should be 1 more year because like I don't see Marcus Smart changing in any way in terms of like upgrading his play. But I think JB still
Mhm.
he can reach a higher ceiling. I don't think like Marcus Smart could reach a higher ceiling. He could
Yeah.
just regulate the way he fucking plays, like
Yeah. I think
and choose a role. You know what I'm saying? So
I agree.
if I
I
don't
agree.
see that within a year, then I'd be on the boat of like, bro, what else is he gonna do for us? Like it's gonna be
Mhm.
so up and down, and by then I for sure will have an answer on that. But the only core that I care about like fixating on is
Right.
JT and JB. Like those are the
Right.
two cornerstones, and those are the ones that I'm willing to give leeway and be like, okay, we should ride it out with these two guys as our main pieces. But outside
Right.
of that, I feel like there is no like safe piece.
I
And
don't know if I have that leeway for JB either, to be honest.
well, JB is my own like the JB
Yeah.
leeway is only 2 years.
Yeah.
But overall, I'm like he is still our one of our
No,
cornerstone
100%.
players.
He's number 2 on that pecking
Yeah,
order.
but Marcus Smart is
100%.
not a cornerstone player in my opinion. He's just like
Hmm.
he's a good player for us, and
I think he's a glue guy.
I don't even know if I can give him that at this
I,
point
I think he's a glue guy, bro.
because he's so up and down. I don't know if he can
think-
be a glue guy.
I think he's up and down in terms of his production, but I do feel like locker room and chemistry and player relationships matter too.
Yeah,
I do.
no, I get that, but he hasn't even been able to get this team like locked in. So like at that point, I can't even say that he's
You're talking
like the
about
glue
like
guy.
the you're talking about like the Draymond role.
Basically.
Yeah.
And if he's not able to do
Mm.
that, and obviously Draymond is even on another level of that because I think
Right.
his IQ and
Mm.
uh, enforcer,
Right.
habits or like ability is on another level and is underrated.
Mm.
But if Marcus Smart isn't even able to do that, and that's why I quote like, "Oh, he's the heart and soul of this team," right?
Mm.
Like, if he's not even able to get us to stop playing like fucking idiots, and
Mm.
obviously being like the main playmaker on this team, or like the
Right.
secondary or
Nah,
whatever
for
you want to
sure.
call it, then I just don't know what his real value is. And obviously his defense has been dropping. He has a lot of
Mm.
big moments and plays for us like that. I'm not saying
Right.
Marcus Smart's not a great player for us. He has a
Right.
lot of great moments, but
Right.
for everything that he is advertised as, I just don't see
Mm.
that being very effective, I guess. Like I
Mm.
think his main calling card is him being
Is that?
the heart and soul and the defense. The defense,
Yeah.
like I said, is slipping, so that's whatever. Like I
Right.
think he can still lock in, but being the heart and soul of the Celtics and still having the Celtics play like
Right.
fucking idiots
Right.
has not given me a lot of like confidence in that. You know what I'm saying?
I think no, I see what you're saying, but like for me, it's like this, right? I think, and maybe this will come down to like this whole hierarchy decision making. Joe finally getting his staff and like maybe a pecking order being established. But I do think, yeah, we need to do what I just said because like I don't think Marcus Smart should be the point guard anymore, like the primary
Mm,
playmaker. Like I'm not saying he's incapable because we've seen the flashes of it, but flashes mean nothing when you're in your prime.
yeah.
Um, where I think focusing on 3 and D, he's improved on his 3 point making. He was like probably the only guy making 3 point shots in those last couple games. Um, and focusing on the defense will kind of reinvigorate the defense. I do think, hey, maybe that hip injury against Toronto was worse than we thought. Who knows?
Yeah.
He was slipping this year.
He
He
is
said
always
it
banged
himself.
up though.
He did say it himself, but I do think moving him off of a role like that and maybe slotting Derek into that primary or secondary
Initiator, I would just say.
initiator
Not
of
even
the offense.
playmaker, just
Yeah, I
initiator.
agree. Like Derek and JT are obviously probably our best initiators at this point.
Hmm.
And Marcus is right there with them. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. I think that's a very uncomfortable conversation
No,
for a
for
lot of
sure.
people.
And I
For a lot of
like
people, yeah,
I'm
and I
not
do
I'm
think,
not like I said, I'm not even on the boat
yeah,
of doing it right
right.
now.
I
Like
do think it's
give it some
more
time.
to the extreme of examples, right?
I think doing it
So,
this offseason would be like not great because
right.
I think everyone is on the boat of like let's
Hmm.
retool and get our like shit back together in terms of like let's
Right.
actually get a staff. Let's work on our own stuff
Yep.
and come back better and run it again. So I think that would be detrimental to do it this year. But like I
Hmm.
said, I'm giving it a year because
I kind of look at it similar to Joe's kind of like trajectory, mainly because of this, right? If you make a move like, I know Marcus is obviously not to the caliber of a player of a JBJT, but he's been here so long that it would be kind of like a move where you're kind of resetting the team. And I think
I think
moving
we're gonna
on
get
from a
there,
head,
man.
but I'm not saying like that. That's not an option because I do believe that that is an option. As much as I love Marcus, I do think moving like something swinging the pendulum in that manner is similar to moving on from a coach as well, where I think if you were to do that, you would have to do it in unison, where you're like, okay, maybe Joe's not the guy, maybe Marcus isn't like what we thought he would be providing to this team. If you do move on from both, I think 2 years from now, Marcus isn't old enough where he's like untradeable. He's only going to be 30 years old, and in that same light, you're resetting the entire team. And we
I don't know.
probably will see a lot more than that. I don't know.
I don't know. I just think they have different timelines. Like I don't think Joe
Mhm.
and Marcus Smart are too connected. In that way.
I don't think they're connected in that way. I think they're connected in more so like of logically resetting the team because that is a reset.
I don't know if that's a reset though. That's what I'm saying. Like I
I
don't think
do.
they should be reset together because I equate it similar to when we didn't do anything after like the whole Kemba and Gordon Hayward thing. And
Oh God, yeah.
we just let it run with JT and JB and we ended up, and reaching the finals and shit. I just think there's
Mhm.
an ideology of like with Marcus Smart leaving, other people have to take up certain
Mm.
mantles because we do
Right,
know what like he provides in terms of
right.
like I'm sure everyone even has the perception like, oh, this guy is like the glue guy, heart and soul, blah blah blah, right? But if he were to leave and get replaced by something else, JT and JB would have to take a bigger role. And I'm always on the ideology of like less is more type shit. So the first time that we saw JT and JB like really be those guys, we or like the ones in 1 and 2, they reached the finals, and that was with everyone wondering if we were gonna use the money to get another like big name player or whatever like that. And we ended up getting like Brogdon and shit like that. We're making the trade for like Miles Turner and shit like that.
Right.
So I think in a similar sense, it would be that with Marcus Smart, because I don't really think that his value is like that crazy in terms of what he provides for this team, in my opinion. So
yeah,
I think mentally they would be like, oh yeah, we just lost a big piece in the locker room, but they would have to take those spots and take a bigger role in the team, basically. And
right.
I think we would just benefit from that, honestly.
But I think it's definitely a conversation to be had.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm not even like advocating for this. I would give it a year. Give it a year. Let's see what he does, and let's see what he figures out. But if it's still more of this up and down, it's like I don't know if that can be our primary initiator. Like this up and down notion that we get from the Marcus Smart experience could be our third best, or like third. Like he has the ball the third most out of everyone.
Yeah, I actually she's right.
Yeah.
So it's funny because Ime actually had that, like, the way we were just talking about, where I felt like obviously Marcus was playing point guard, but it almost didn't feel that way.
Yeah.
When Ime was was the coach.
Yeah.
Where Marcus had the like almost teetering on even the second most usage rate. But yeah, I'm just thinking about Nathan's face right now, because this conversation is very near to his heart, because like that's his favorite player.
No, for sure.
But like I don't think anything's out of the question, and other than JT, I just don't see anybody being like not expendable.
Exactly. I think just to like, conceptualize this in a way easier way. The main thing is, if we are thinking about trading JB, there's no way that we don't think about trading all these other guys. Like
100%.
First. So it's
100%.
like JB and JT are first priority. So for me, it's not crazy to think about trading Marcus Smart if people are already making fucking trade machines about JB right now for the dirty handlers and shit of the world. So it's like Marcus Smart has not done anything, or not
actually.
What's up?
If you notice, the JB trade machines include Marcus.
No, yeah, that too. It would obviously include Marcus Smart too. But what I'm saying is, he hasn't done, or his impact isn't so big to the point where I don't think that he shouldn't be looked at right now. I'm not saying that is the move, but I don't think that he is on the level of, oh my god, we have to keep this guy because he is like.
I hear you.
So
I hear you.
It's for sure a conversation, but I think
for me, yeah, I agree with you in the sense of the 1 year timeline, where after next year, if we're seeing the same issues that we saw this year and last year, the entire construction of the roster needs to be reassessed.
Yeah.
So, like, does that include moving Marcus? Maybe. Does that include moving Rob or JB? Probably not Derek, if we're being honest.
Saying, bro, I'm telling you.
Like, no, just because like I feel like he's your typical Brad guy.
That, like, but I also just feel like he just love in anything.
Yeah.
Like whatever this construction of team will be, there's gonna be a spot where Derek could thrive. Like
probably.
That's why I'm like, it's insane.
I mean, Brad traded for him for a reason.
Yeah.
So like the vision's there. He's still pretty young. I think he's only like 27. So yeah, I think next year the possibility of reassessing the roster is going to be looked at, and I think you just got to put your affinities aside. Like,
yes,
I love JB. I don't want to trade JB. I don't want to see him wearing another uniform, but the possibility is there, and it took unfortunately a terrible Game 7 loss to kind of have the entirety of Celtic Nation and their civil war between JT JB to see that. And you know what? These conversations are uncomfortable for a reason, because you develop like attachments to these players. If you follow sports, it's very real. Like you kind of become attached to these
Like,
players.
bro,
And
if I lost
yo,
Rob,
like, listen,
oh my god.
listen, I lost Paul Pierce, bro.
I know
Paul
that's
Pierce
crazy.
Paul Pierce is the man that got me into basketball, and then we got traded for KG, who happened to be like my favorite non-Celtic, and
Non-Celtic.
we fucking traded for the guy, and then we traded both of them in the same offseason. These are terrible conversations. That was a dark day for me,
Nah, I feel
but
that.
it ended up. But and to kind of highlight Kyle's point, I don't think this isn't really a hey trade Marcus.
Yeah, yeah.
This is more of a that conversation needs to be looked at, because if you could trade a cornerstone like Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett, and then you see how that turned out for us, we didn't rebuild, we retooled
Mm-hmm.
because of the assets we got from that trade, and lo and behold, Marcus Smart was one of the products of the following year.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
full circle here, but you know what? I think every conversation needs to be at least entertained.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's really a personal thing for anybody. I know it's hard, Nathan. I'm looking at you. I know it's hard to have this conversation, but reality is, at some point, it just doesn't work out, man.
Yep.
And you have to move on from certain people. I'm not saying we do, but at the moment, it's not going to happen. Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, like all these guys that we just talked about, they're gonna be on the team next year.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to happen. But in 2025, that conversation needs to be had.
Yeah.
It's gonna need to be
I'm saying
reassessed,
it could be the
and I'm sure,
fucking
yeah,
copium talking, but I'm like, yo, I genuinely have faith in these guys and that they will be able
yeah,
to figure out what the fuck they were doing wrong and come back a lot
hmm
better. Because
agreed,
regardless, we were the most talented team in the NBA. And I still
yep,
think that falls true within next season, depending on,
yep,
the moves that teams make. But we're
hmm
still in that at least top tier of that.
100%,
Whether it's going to be like top three or whatever, depending on what teams do, we are
yep,
clearly in that most talented team. So it's not like I feel like we need to make changes, but I'm not giving that long of a leash either, because
yeah,
we can't be the most talented team for 3 years and come to nothing with that.
yep,
And making the same mistakes. So,
yes.
yeah, I'm just bringing these conversations up. Brogdon for sure would be like highest
I,
on that
I
list.
I don't
Which
even think Brogdon's like a reassessment thing. I honestly think that that's kind of
no,
been
that one, yeah, that
yeah,
one I'm more on the boat of like, yeah, we can just do it,
yeah,
because one, he's not even on the core,
yep,
expiring, older, or like he's close to expiring, something like that.
yep,
So yeah, I mean, I think that's just how we got to look at it, man. Like
yeah,
the timeline is JT in his like prime. So
yep.
if we don't show him that we can build,
You have to capitalize on that man's prime.
yeah. So
We're looking at a generational player here, boys.
I can't be tied. I can't be tied to no role players
Yeah,
right now.
like
As much as I love all the
although
Celtics players.
although it kind of sucks to think about the Kevin Durant thing, but we won't go there. We won't go there. We won't go there.
I've been on that shit, man.
We won't
Oh
go
my
there.
god. Oh my
We won't
god.
go there though. We won't. We won't. We'd be in the finals, but we won't. We
I'm
won't go there.
saying, man, like
Um,
I hate that I was
also,
right, but
listen. Okay, so as far as the rest of the roster construction, I did make a list. I think the Jays are under contract next year, guaranteed.
yes.
Derek, Al, Rob, Marcus, Brogdon, all under contract.
Mm-hmm.
Sam, Luke, Richard, and Gallo, all under contract.
Yeah, I mean,
Muscala
Gallo's
is
coming back, so maybe that's our
yeah,
forward.
he's gonna opt in. He's gonna opt in.
Yeah.
I included him because he's a player option, and there's no way he's turning down
Oh yeah.
$7 million out coming off an ACL injury.
Yeah.
Team options is Muscala. Please don't. Um, restricted free agency is Grant, as we all know, and then free agent is Blake. Please bring Blake back for the
I don't
vibe.
want to bring Blake back.
Blake is a minimum contract, non-detrimental to any sort of salary cap conversation, and he's there for the vibes, bro.
Yeah.
Like
So,
Blake is so amazing on the bench, dude. We need him.
no, he's there. I mean, so after all this conversation, there's a world where all we do is just move Grant and Brogdon for some things, for
100%.
some pieces, and I think that honestly would be enough to
Mhm.
retool.
Agreed.
Because Grant is cool, but even for that like 12 mil, I'm like he was barely contributing. I like his energy a lot, and he was doing good in the minutes that he got.
In the
But
Eastern Conference Finals, that kind of like really showed us a little bit of what he's capable of.
yeah, but I just don't think that he is close to being what like what
Mhm.
we would want out of our holes, I guess. He's not
Yeah.
a big that we could use,
Hmm.
and dude smaller than JT. So
Yep.
he's not even like a versatile forward. He's a very
Yeah.
like unorthodox forward that is versatile in some ways.
Yep.
Um, and I think those are just the places that we're missing stuff.
Yeah.
And then obviously Pritchard would need to be going too because homie just wants to leave. But
Yep.
the way that
Yep.
Brad was talking about it, I do think there's a world that if we do get rid of Brogdon, there would be Pritchard time.
Mm.
So
Even then, I think the whole fucking media tour since January has kind of like put me off of him.
no, I
And I
agree.
love
I agree.
I love Pritch as a player, but
But
I don't think
things
you
could
know
change. I think things like that
maybe.
happen. Like I reference like I know like KD. Obviously that's a
Yeah,
whole different conversation.
that's
But
a superstar.
yeah,
Bro.
no, I know. But he was like, oh, like I want to get out in the beginning
Yeah,
of the Nets off season. But then he was just balling and that's it. Like it was fine
yeah,
until Kyrie wanted out, and then he was like, all
right.
right. He even wanted to stay after the whole Kyrie thing, but because they couldn't
Yep,
get a trade in, he was like,
yep,
all right, I want to go to the Suns and shit. So
yeah, yeah,
obviously it's different because KD's a superstar, but there's a world where if Pritchard is just not guaranteed, but like given time to
mm,
actual like play, not just like when two of our guards are injured,
yeah.
but like regular minutes.
If he slots into the Brogdon role,
Yeah, maybe he could
yeah,
just be like, okay, I'm cool with that.
yeah, maybe.
So
I mean, I'd be cool with it too, but like, damn, bro, that dude literally went to Shams right away.
yeah,
Like
it's if
after the
he
off
is.
season.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm cool with trading him off too, because
yeah, no,
we
agreed.
have enough guard depth in my opinion.
And as far as the Grant thing, I was like, I had a number here on my notes where I'd be cool with like, I don't know, 8 to 9 million.
Mm.
But I don't think it's realistic in terms of what he
I
was
don't think
asking
he's gonna
for
want that. Yeah.
because like he wanted 20 million, and that's not happening, like ever. But I do think there's a world where at some point a team just prices us out of Grant, because I do think he's still a contributor to an NBA team. But it's just probably not going to be the Boston Celtics next year,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Hopefully in a sign and trade where we're like,
Mhm.
hey, Grant, do you want
Mhm.
13 million so we can get Cam Johnson? So like, so you know what I mean?
That'd be crazy,
Like,
man. That'd be crazy.
some like that is in the works, but unfortunately, I do love Grant. Like,
Yeah.
I've grown to love this guy. I've made it very clear that
Funny guy.
when he was
Funny guy.
drafted,
Good energy and shit.
Pokemon fan. When he was drafted, I was like, this dude should not be in the NBA. Like, he's grown on me, bro. Like, he's grown on me. But yeah, you're not
He
getting.
has value. I just don't know if
Yeah,
it's on this team.
it's not $15 million value either.
That too. Yeah, for the
Um,
price.
yeah, and yeah, I have on my notes here resign Blake, but okay, I do think as far as roster construction, just get Joe some veteran coaches.
Yeah, that too.
That's the most important thing to me, and then obviously addressing JB's contract is above that, but get Joe some coaches.
Yep.
And final thoughts on the season. All right,
I honestly don't think it was a failure.
You don't think it was a failure?
I think it was to an extent, obviously because we didn't get the chip and stuff. But I can't
Mhm.
look at the season and be like, maybe it's because I started to accept it like when the beginning of the playoffs came. I was already
Mhm.
on the like I wasn't a doomer, but I was telling y'all I was like, yo, this team is not moving me right now. So maybe that's why it's a lot easier for me to accept it. But
Mhm.
I think where we ended off, literally game 7, 1 game off reaching the finals,
Mhm.
playing as stupid as we did throughout the whole playoffs and season. I'm like, I can't be too mad.
I think for me, it's not necessarily that we didn't win the chip. I think it's because the path to the finals is probably the easiest we'll ever see.
Yep.
Especially compared to last year, bro. We went through
Yep.
the fucking gauntlet last year.
Yep.
Went through the supposedly title contending Nets and swept those boys. We beat the fucking defending champions and the Bucks, and then we played a fucking number one seed Heat team, right, with the best coach in the league, and we got to the finals, and we took 2 games in the finals against a fucking dynasty. So
Mhm.
like just comparing it to last year, as far as like the quality of the opponents, I do think anything short of making the finals was a failure to me. And I
Well,
believe I said this too in the other
yeah, I would
episode.
say I agree it's a failure, but am I upset? I can't be because these guys are
I'm
stupid.
upset.
Like I already knew it was gonna happen.
I'm
That
upset because I.
I did not think it was gonna happen. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, I
Really?
would say it's a failure. Yes, because
Mhm.
dude, this team was just playing dumb
I
the whole
know.
entire time. Like
The execution, the
execution.
lapses,
I've been
like
saying
that's
that since
been there all
fucking
year.
January, man. So like,
No,
yeah, I can't even say I was
yeah,
surprised.
but I think overall, I think the season's a failure just because the path to the finals.
Yeah, failure. I agree. I can agree with
Yeah.
that.
And obviously going down 3-0 to a Miami team, like
Hmm.
we were in a lot of those games, and we've talked about this at length, but we should never have been down 3-0 to that team.
Yep.
So we should have made the finals. And then obviously the Hawks pushing us to 6, Philly pushing us to 7. I don't think, like stuff like that.
Hmm.
This makes it a failure of a season. Uh, Although rounding it back, I do still have optimism in this team. You can call me, copium to the max. I don't give a fuck.
Oh yeah,
Call
no,
me
I
a
still
king
have
senior.
faith too.
I still have faith in this team. I do think there's a lot to look forward to. Tatum's leap, Brown fixing his left hand dribble, Rob getting healthy, having 2 full off seasons,
Yep.
get
He finally
healthy.
has an off season to get healthy.
Tatum wrist surgery, by the way.
Yep.
Um, you know, just Derek White's, continued improvement. I do think Marcus getting healthy as well over the offseason. Hopefully, none of these dudes play for Team USA. Please don't. Like,
Yeah.
stop. Like,
I'm just
put that in contracts. But
I'm honestly just excited because I feel like they shouldn't play like entitled pricks next season.
100%,
Like this whole
100%.
season just felt like, oh yeah, we made it there. We're gonna get back there. It's just a matter of
Mm-hmm.
time. So
Mm-hmm.
for them to just get fucking humbled by this, you know,
Yep.
undrafted roster on that everyone keeps fucking quoting about the Heat,
Yo, dead
um,
ass.
and losing in Game 7 like that the way that they did. I hope that they just fucking come in and understand that not everything is just because of the most talented does not mean that they're gonna make it,
Agreed.
and
You
they
can't
gotta
just win on
stop acting
talent
like
alone.
idiots.
Yep. I think. But yeah, and then obviously getting Joe a full staff. We have a lot to look forward to
Yeah.
as Celtics fans for next year. And did you have anything else, Dad?
No, no, no.
So finals predictions after game 1. I got Nuggets in 5.
I got Nuggets in 5 too.
I just think this like they can only go so far, man. Miami, like they ran
Yeah.
into our fucking monstrosity of a dysfunctional team.
Mhm.
So yeah,
They're like, yo,
Denver's
this
just
shit is night
outmatched.
and day. They know
It
how to
is night and
fucking
day.
play a zone.
this team, this team moves.
Oh my god. But yeah, no, I think it'll be 5. I think the Heat will probably have a game where they shoot like lights out,
Mhm.
play good defense, all that kind of stuff. But uh, yeah, the Nuggets are just very, very consistent, and Jokic is just having fucking field day, bro.
Yep,
Like they
Jokic.
lost on a fucking generational Bam Adebayo game.
Yo,
This man was cooking for no reason.
he was the
His-
only guy
his
cooking
team was
too.
doing nothing.
He was
Like
the
yo,
only guy.
Bam was not looking like that against the Celtics.
He was not, bro.
And they still fumbled that shit. So
That's
I don't
that's
think
that
that you.
Al.
Yeah,
That's
I
that
don't
Al
think you can
Horford
expect
defense.
Bam to continue to do that for the rest of the
Yeah,
series.
no way. I do think they steal one game at home probably.
Yeah.
But and it's funny because you say steal, but I think Jokic is just generational right now. Like he's literally at the peak of his game,
Yep.
and then his role players are playing amazing, like top to bottom. Aaron Gordon, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., Bruce Brown, KCP, like all these dudes are contributing, like
Hmm.
in every facet of the game. If they're not hitting shots, they're playing defense, they're hustling, they're fucking like Jokic is calling out the rotations. You
Yep.
saw that
Yep.
shit, like
That
but
was
no, like
fire.
they're just on an entirely different level. Um, and you know what? Congrats to them. Well,
Actually.
I don't want to preemptively do it because obviously, got to play the games. But damn, I'm happy for this. You know what? This was the best case scenario for me.
Mm.
Like the Nuggets were like the team I would have picked out of the last 4 teams if the Celtics couldn't have done it.
Yeah. I mean that
Like,
makes sense.
you know what
I
I
would
mean?
have wanted them to win it.
Not rooting for the fucking Lakers. Fuck Miami. All the shit they were
Mhm.
talking. So you know what? Denver, Jokic, temporary Nuggets fan, baby.
Yes, sir. That's my MVP right there.
Yo, that Wait, yo, actually, we gotta talk about that real quick. It's crazy how just like 3 months ago the discourse was Jokic should not win the third MVP, and now the discourse is, damn, Jokic might be the best player in the league.
Actually, dude,
Like,
narratives are so fucking stupid, man.
it's actually
So
insane, bro.
reactionary. The fact that people were like, the reason why he didn't get the third MVP was because of this exact reason.
Yep.
He can't lead this team to a championship or even to the finals. Blah blah blah
Yep.
blah blah. And he's literally doing that as soon as
He's
he gets the
literally
contract.
doing it and giving the numbers that people would want on
God, man,
efficiency. And,
sympathy MVP is
but,
crazy.
but you know what's gonna happen though, right? Like it's already happening. People are like, oh, he went through the 8 seeded Timberwolves,
Yeah, yeah.
7 seeded Lakers. You know what I mean? The
I just
four
don't think
seeded
that there's gonna be
Suns.
that much discourse. Like,
Yeah, no,
I think people will bring that up, but it's not gonna be
yeah,
that strong of an argument because it's just
it's
like
not at
he
all.
beat the people in front of him. Cool, and
Yep.
like he got
No,
the
that
one seed
ass,
for a reason.
that ass,
And this
and not only did he beat him, he actually was the one that dominated.
exactly.
So, yeah, man, you just can't hate Jokic. He doesn't really do anything to make you hate him. So,
Actually,
like,
shout out,
he just
shout outs to him.
shout outs to him, man. Congrats to him, and congrats to Aaron Gordon for finding a role in the league.
Hmm.
You know? So yeah, good on you guys, Denver fans. That should have been us. Oh, it hurts, man. It hurts.
It does. It's not good though.
Okay. All right. Until next time. Signing off.
Peace.